I'm Bunny. Tonight's episode of Bunny at the Wheel is very special. My father, Len Butler, and I will be traveling the roads of Martha's Vineyard, taking a look at his history as a craftsman, a custom home builder on Martha's Vineyard over the years. We'll be seeing houses that he's completed. We'll be seeing his old shop on North Road, a place that's very near and dear to my heart and to his as well. We'll be traveling in Big Red, a 2002 Ford F-450 dump truck that belongs to his company, a vehicle that's very special to me, for it carried me away from home as a youth to Boston. So join us tonight for Bunny at the Wheel.
Acting like a lunatic on Saturday night. Turning on the radio, and it's alright.
We're going to see an old friend today, old Big Red. I figured I'd, cleanse the palate first by going there in a Prius. This truck belongs to my father's construction company. That truck put me where I am today, you could say. It was in that truck that Chunky Dog and I moved to Boston. Normally you don't move houses in dump trucks, but when you're on Martha's Vineyard, you make do with what you got. I'm here at the shop, at the John Early shop. I'm waiting for Pop, waiting for LB, so we can go get the truck. This is where Big Red normally lives. She's not here right now. We gotta go get her. She's in Edgartown, full of a load of leaves, and he should be here any minute. Morning, Pop.
Hey, morning, son.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good.
The old office. This is where we presently reside.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a long history up to this point. Today, maybe we'll take a little tour and see what the roots of the John Early Company were all about.
Yeah, we got to go find Big Red, and we got to go get it. And then I guess we got to dump the leaves out that are in it. We're gonna go do that now, and then we're gonna take a little tour.
Okay, let's hit the road.
Right, sounds good.
Along in my portable office. I got tools in the back.
Oh yeah, tools in the back, tools in the front,
Right.
tools down below.
Down below, plans on the dash. Okay, we're looking for 85.
Looking for 85, and we're looking for Big Red. There's Big Red.
Oh yeah.
There she is.
Load of leaves. Better
There she is.
throw the tarp over it so we don't lose them halfway.
Yeah.
But
So Big Red is a 2002 Ford F-450. Technically the name of the truck is Bigger Red because this truck replaced an older Big Red. It was, I believe, an 85 bullnose Ford F-350. And so the 450 replaced the 350, so this is Bigger Red, but we just call her Big Red. It really is the kind of the last of the great work trucks. This truck has no options on it whatsoever. It's got no air conditioning. It's got no tape player, no CD player. It's a stick shift. It's a regular cab. It's got the vinyl seats. It's just as bare bones can get. And that's why I love it, because it's unpretentious. It's just, it's meant to do a job. Just give me a work truck. And that's what this is. It's a 6.8 liter Ford V10 gasoline. Makes 310 horsepower, 425 pounds-feet of torque. The nice thing about this engine is that it was very flexible. You know, unlike kind of normal big block V8s and stuff, the V10 had power higher in the rev range, so you could really wring it out and rev it out. It didn't lose all its steam, you know, at like 2,000 RPM. And it's got a great sound too. I don't know if you can hear that. It's just really, you know, it's got a very interesting sound. What they did with the V10 was they took their modular V8, the 5.4 liter V8, and they just stuck 2 more cylinders on it. You wouldn't see that nowadays. You know, nowadays everything's like a clean sheet design. You know, everything's all brand new and all turbocharged, and they're like, oh, we need a big truck engine. All right, we'll just throw 2 more cylinders on the old 5.4. That'll be good. We'll call it a day. I wasn't kidding before when I said this is a work truck. You got a radio, 4 presets, no tape player, no CD, no Bluetooth. Bluetooth? What the hell is that? Yeah, you got a full gauge pack though, which is nice. You got your 6-speed ZF there with a deep low granny gear on it. Reverse is left and up. That's unusual. And you got your PTO down there, which runs the dump bed, and there's your dump control for when you want to dump them. It's been 10 years since I've driven this truck, and it feels like I never left. The clutch is very light on this. I forgot how light the clutch is. It's almost like a switch. It's like a light switch. Boy, a lot of memories in this rig. We had no other way of getting off the island to move to Boston when we were leaving home. And so we took Big Red. We lost Sean's box spring on Route 3 on the way up to Boston. Sean, who was riding in the passenger seat, he goes, stop, 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 we lost something. And of course, it's the rainiest day of the year. Oh God, and Sean's box spring had just flown off the top of the load right into the highway. Because, you know, it's a freaking dump truck, there's no roof. And we didn't secure things properly because we didn't know what the hell we were doing. This engine is kind of going the way of the Dodo Bird. You know, it's too bad because it was a great engine. We're gonna go to the transfer station and we're gonna dump these leaves out. She just makes this little sound. It's like her little song.
It reminds me of when you were just a little shaver. You'd be sitting on this side, I'd be driving, you'd be in here in your little car seat that had a little steering wheel on it. I think that's when you first got aspirations to be a truck driver. Then we'd be listening to the young adults, or They Might Be Giants. Remember the Triangle Man?
Oh yeah, that was my favorite.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about the history of your career as a custom home builder and one of the most respected names in home building in, you know, well, anywhere.
Well, I first landed on the shores of Martha's Vineyard. I was fortunate enough to land a job with some third-generation island builders, Harold Dugan Company, whose father had built a lot of the old whaling captains' houses. Actually, his grandfather and his father went on to build all the mansions for all the industrialists that had moved to the vineyard. And so we learned an opportunity to work on a lot of these old homes. So after a few years with Harold, his son-in-law and I took a job working with another builder on the island, and the company was called Xanadu Construction. That's where the earliest members of the crew started. This was about almost 40 years ago.
So who'd you have back then?
My best friends, Paul Nippes and Gordo, the famous Gordon Otis. And we also had Glenn. We had Bubba. We had Buddy Vanderhoop.
Oh man!
Yeah, he was our Bobcat driver who upended it the first day we had it.
You're hired.
Yeah, you got
Buddy
the job.
Vanderhoop.
And we went out on our own, Paul and I, and Bill Ross, and formed a company called Noman's Construction. And that was a cash business, not exactly tax-paying. We have to go around and we have to weigh in first.
Right.
This is a commercial vehicle. We did a lot of modest homes for local architects, and at that point, John and I worked together. John was hired by, actually in the Xanadu days, because he was dating the sister of Sam Sherman, who was the head of Xanadu. John had gone to business school, in a degree from Cornell, and wanted to get legit, so we formed the John G. Early Incorporated. And have been working under that entity ever since. We've developed quite a reputation from building high-end residential homes, and been very fortunate here. There's been a lucrative market here in Martha's Vineyard where all the beautiful and wealthy people want to be. Right. This is the Island Transfer Station. This is where all the refuse is brought from all the town dumps. There's no landfills on the island anymore.
Okay, we're gonna dump these leaves out. Hopefully they'll dump because they're pretty frozen. So here's how you dump them. So what you got to do with a PTO operated hoist is first clutch in, okay? Clutch in. PTO up. Make sure you're out of gear. Clutch out. You hear the PTO engage. So you hear that, all right? Now, take your lever, push the button down, and you dump them. Almost. They're coming now. Pull forward. We got about half of it out. That's something. Don't want to get buried alive. First stop, gonna be Steve Donovan's project. And where's this?
It's up on Indian Hill.
Indian Hill, all right.
Called Indian Hill because it was a common meeting place for Native Americans. Top of a large hill and had some huge glacial erratic boulders. Right. Some Wampanoag tribe were the original inhabitants of Martha's Vineyard. Indigenous people that go back at least 5,000 years on the island.
A lot farther than we do.
Yes, indeed. This place we're at now is an old farmstead, probably built in the 1850s thereabouts. The current owners decided they wanted to move it to improve the water view and do a substantial addition to it. We had a local house mover that we used quite a bit to jack it up, put it on wheels, and set it on a new foundation. So that just happened a couple of weeks ago.
Wow. Now that's an undertaking.
Yeah.
Moving a house.
Holy jamoli. Look at this. We've got sunglasses row here. I feel like I should go get mine on. Well, like I was saying to you, know.
Great day.
This is Steve Donovan. He's the foreman here at this project, and we just wanted to drop by and see what it looks like. Tell us a little bit about it, if you wouldn't mind.
Video, huh?
Yeah.
Testing. 1, 2. It's a 1836 home that was right at this site just beyond this cedar tree.
All right.
And we picked it up, gave it a little ride, and put it in front of its new foundation, its new home. Have it down. It's now on the new foundation. There's a breezeway to the right of it, and then there's a addition going on the right side that will have the same gable dimensions, but it's just sticking the 21st century into the old house.
Pretty good fit on the old foundation.
Yeah, well, we had to
Do a little.
all the corners we had
Massage
to open. Once all the corners were tied back
Yep.
down and in, everything was plumb.
Yeah, great.
So,
You done?
and there's a camera engaged, John, so run for your life. You know, this has got quite a bow in it. Oh,
Yeah.
this one here.
And then the one.
Shoyers.
What's the name of them?
Another one.
Shoyers.
Shoyers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Shoyers, yeah. And then Parsonage.
Yeah, Parsonage is
Yeah.
another one,
Yeah, and then Taylor's at Squidnock.
Yeah, so
West Chop Club?
West Chop Club, yeah.
That's right,
Yeah,
too,
we've,
West Shore Club,
yeah, we've moved to
Yeah.
you old ladies.
Right, right.
See the old frame there, and it's all braced and pegged.
Yep.
You know, back before the days of plywood,
Right.
everything needed to be wind braced.
I tell you what, though, these old buildings, they withstood all
Oh, yeah.
the old storms and
Hurricanes,
yeah.
you name it.
Well, they just, you know, they gave with the wind. You know, they had
That
a
was
kind
it,
of a
yeah.
natural motion
Yeah.
to them. Everyone's all pinned.
The old half-lap joints with the pegs.
Right.
Yeah, the nails back then were cut or wrought nails.
Right, exactly.
They were probably expensive.
Yeah. Made by hand.
Yep.
Now we're gonna head to, what do you think? Should we head to the mill?
Yeah. Go to the old Dr. Fisher Mill.
Yeah. So this was actually not your first shop, but it was the shop you had before you moved to Vineyard Haven, and it was the
Right.
shop that John Early was in when I was born, when I was a kid. So it was the old Dr. Fisher Mill on North Road at Crocker Pond. A very significant mill around here. Probably doesn't get the recognition that it deserves because it was very advanced for its day. It was driven by a vertical axis turbine as opposed to a water wheel, which back in the 1850s, 1860s when it was built, that was a big deal. You know, that was a brand new development. You know, not having a big water wheel, but a
Yeah.
high-speed vertical
shaft,
axis
yeah.
turbine.
Well, Dr. Fisher was, at one point, was considered the wealthiest man on the island.
Right.
He was a prominent physician in Edgartown, but he also married into a whaling family.
Right.
And was the owner of several very successful whaling ships. But then he realized there was more money to be made in provisioning all the whale ships that
Right.
out of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, and so he set up a bakery to make the hardtack.
Right.
Was the staple.
Supply the ships.
Instead of importing the wheat, he bought a big tract of land out here. All along there's a chain of ponds, starting with Fisher Pond,
Fisher Pond,
then,
Crocker
then the
Pond.
Crocker Pond, and then
Priester's Pond.
through the
That's
mill
as
to
well.
Priesters, and then eventually out to the old mill pond.
Mill Pond that everybody knows.
And so he bought all this land and raised wheat on it,
Yeah.
which he harvested and brought back to the mill we're about to visit to grind it into flour to make the hardtack here at O'Neill. This is one of the houses that we renovated. Now belongs to an Australian family. John Early grew up in Seven Gates Farm, and so he had a connection here. And so when we're looking for a space for a shop, the old mill was perfectly suited. It was, an old woodworking shop, a textile mill. The turbine not only ground the wheat, but it also ran a bunch of belt-driven machinery. So in the old shop overhead, there's all kinds of gears and transfer gears and crown gears and leather belts that ran all the woodworking equipment
big
or
flywheel.
textile machines or whatever. So they could do both grinding and run machinery. During the beginning of the industrial age, it's pretty state-of-the-art in there.
The records from back then listed as one of the most advanced mills of its day. There are not many records of this mill. We'll see it. It's on the other side of the house here. You can just see the dam.
Yeah, imagine when that thing was cranking, the building really rumbled.
Yeah, boy, I wish I could have seen that. Well, this is the mill. Hopefully the wind isn't too loud, but here's the sluice gate. You can see where the water comes in to the gate. It's a hand crank affair, and you ratchet it up, and that would control the flow of water to the turbine. Louis de Geoffroy said that he thinks the last time it was run was about 1964. Yeah, this is the spillway here, and so this would control the level of the pond. I remember that far spillway there that's dry now. I remember that running when I was a kid.
The overflow.
This is just the standard spillway here. And the tail race continues on to Priesters and to the mill pond. It goes through the mill pond watershed.
Joins up the Tiasquam River and out into Ties Cove,
Right.
which feeds the Tisbury Great Pond, which occasionally is open to the ocean,
Right.
the Atlantic. They dig an opening to introduce salt water in there so that they can harvest shellfish, but occasionally it's breached during storms. So replenish the salt.
We're going down here along the side of the mill, right up against the dam. And this is some broken glass here. Now, this shaft is the main drive shaft leading up into the mill that drives all the machinery. And the turbine is down there, down to the bowels of the building here. So there is the turbine casing, it looks like. So you can see there, that big kind of kettle looking thing there with the shaft coming out the top. That's the turbine casing. Flowed in from the left, spun the turbine, and then spun the machinery.
Large timbers there supporting the grindstone. It's all hand-cut granite. It's the
Yeah.
whole structure of the dam,
Yeah, everything.
foundation, yeah.
I wish I could express what this place really means to me. So many memories as a kid. Very formative for me. My love of machinery and things that spin and move and just the scenery and everything. It's just such an idyllic kind of a place. You know, when you're a little kid, you come to a place like this, it's really like heaven. I wish we could see inside. You could see all the machinery, but you get a sense of what this is like. We used to walk down this path here and go into the woods, go on all kinds of adventures. This whole bridge is still here. But it also had all the shafts and, oh, look at that. It's open. Wow. This is amazing. I have not been in here since I was 7, 8. It's different than I remember it. I feel like there used to be a wall here,
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
wall.
and there was the grinding stone. Is that the grinding stone there?
Yeah.
God, it seems, when I was a little kid, it seemed so much bigger. You can see the shaft, the main shaft that comes up from the turbine with these wood-toothed bevel gears that came up and drove, the 90-degree drive there, and then you had the shaft that went along. You had your various, power takeoff points for running all sorts of different tools and machinery.
There's a big lever that would engage it.
Yeah, there's the clutch there.
Flywheel, yeah.
Yeah.
See the grooves in the millstone?
Yeah. That's where they would grind the flour. remember walking up this staircase here because the office used to be up here. Louis' office was up here. And there was a wall here, and this staircase just seemed so treacherous. I always thought I was going to fall down. You know, it was just kind of menacing. You know, this old machinery. I always thought that the mill could just start up at any point. You know, that the water would just start flowing and everything would start running. You know.
Back in the day, we did a lot of nice woodworking in this space.
Yeah.
We brought in all our modern machinery.
Right.
We didn't have use of any of the old machinery.
You see a little shaft there with the leather belts hanging off.
Can only imagine what it sounded like when this place was humming.
There's another clutch.
These are all the clutches, yeah.
So you could engage them, disengage them as you needed them.
That stops.
That's like the main
That's the
power.
That's the main shaft,
Yeah. Coming off the turbine. Yeah, these are wood-toothed gears.
Look at this rig here. I don't know exactly what this did, but it probably brought the hay or the wheat from up above
Right.
and down to the grindstone.
Right. Yeah, distributed
all
it down.
all the wheat was separated from the shaft and
Right.
ground into flour.
Now what have we here? What is this? National Brake and Electric Company. Huh. National Brake and Electric of Milwaukee. I mean, it looks like here it's some sort of compressor or hydraulic.
Generator?
Maybe like I don't know. Horsepower, amperage, volts. So it's something electric.
Yeah,
Some sort of motor. I don't know.
I think it might have been a generator.
Still some old chaff in
Yeah,
there.
we removed the shaft
Wow. Boy,
from the flour. Yeah.
I don't know how long that's been there.
Yeah.
Look at this. Look at that. This could have been out of a tractor or something. Sliding gears there, straight cut gears, no synchro mesh there.
Old harness,
Yeah,
grass horses.
yeah. Pretty special getting to be in here after so long and see it still, you know, the way it was left, except for all the stuff that's stored in here, but it's pretty special, pretty powerful. Well, that was pretty special.
Yeah.
I hadn't set foot in there in 25 plus years, and neither had you.
No, and it used to be a wall. That whole section around the turbine used to be walled off.
Right.
And so actually, I was seeing some stuff in there that I
Had
never seen before.
Yeah, me neither. I used to come down here on my bike, and it always seemed like when I would get on North Road that it was like I found an extra gear or something on my bike. Like I used to, as soon as I would get on North Road, it was like I had 10% more speed for some reason. I don't know what. I don't know why.
Another one I really enjoyed was building Spike Lee's house, called the Neo-Victorian. It's kind of using the old Victorian style, gingerbread style of oak bluffs, but more in a modern idiom. And it was a kind of a really funky, unusual house.
What was it like working for Spike Lee? I mean,
Well, actually, it was great. You know, he was a city kid and never built a house before. Lived in apartments in the city his whole life, and so this was his first home of his own. And he was very interested. He came up, we built a guest house first so that he could come up on weekends, monitor the progress, and give us input. And Spike and I got along really well. He knew I was looking out for his best interests, and had a certain creative ability, which he appreciated. And yeah, I did have a lot of input into the woodworking and detailing of the house. Spike was also a very appreciative customer. I mean, at the end of the job, he called me in one day and invited me up to his apartment over the garage, the guest house.
Yeah.
And said, Len, before this job slips away and it's all behind us, I just want to let you know how much I appreciate your attention to detail. So that's he goes, you and I are similar in a lot of ways, that we take pride in our work, especially in the details, because this is our legacy. And, you've created a legacy here for me, and, as I hope I do in my films, and, here's to you. And, that was some of the nicest thing a client has ever said to me.
That's really special.
Yeah, there's definitely a public Spike Lee and a private Spike Lee, and, and I got to see the private Spike Lee.
That's
it was, really a great guy.
Yeah, that's great.
Funny story, after the house was finished,
Yeah.
I stopped by after his first couple of months in the house,
Yeah.
and towards the end he was cutting back on some of the funding and didn't get a landscaper involved and everything, so I showed up and pulled up to the front door, and there were waist-high weeds all around, and Spike had a sack around his neck, a do-rag on his head, and his new wife was out there saying, now get that one, get that one. And he was plucking weeds out and throwing them in the bag.
Oh, man. Good for him.
Oh, man.
That's great.
So the first thing I said was, that's a fine-looking batch of weeds you got growing there, Mr. Lee. He said, not bad for a city boy, huh?
Boy, if that had happened nowadays, you could have had your phone out, you could have had your camera,
yeah.
you could have sold that to the
New
Inquirer.
York Post would have paid big money for that photo.
I never got to meet him. I've met just about all your other clients at some point, but I never got to meet Spike. I was pretty young when that house was going on. That was like early 90s. I remember going there, and he had this big old Land Rover Defender. It was this huge Land Rover 110, and I think he had like one of the only ones. There were very few of them brought to the United States of that type. I'd never seen a car that was that big.
But the funny thing about that, Spike didn't know how to drive. That's what he said. I never had a license. I never had a need for a car. So his wife taught him how to drive.
Right. No.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. One day I was out playing. The house was out on this golf course, and I was coming down on the 12th green, and he came driving by the 12th green and saw me. Hey, look at me! I'm driving. He was behind the wheel with his wife, in that Land Rover, getting a driving lesson.
Right.
Why don't we pop down to Menemsha for a second?
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
How are we doing that way?
Good.
Can't see.
Here is the Menemsha Market, which was owned for years by the Sewards and still run by the Sewards.
Yeah.
Mark Seward, one of our John Early employees, he was born and raised above the store here. His mom ran the store. And it doesn't really look it now, but this little shed on the side was actually Quint's shack during the filming of Jaws. Over on the other side of the pond where was the remains of the orca.
Yeah, they've rotted to the waterline now, but the wrecks used to be down there.
This was one of the beach cottages up here on the harbor. There was a whole series of them, and it was bought by one of our clients and big-time New York architect Thierry Despont. We completely did this thing over, and it was Billy Joel and Christy Brinkley's house before they got divorced. And he would tie his boat up down here, and
You see that down there?
yeah. And he'd come up here on the weekends, and actually they
used this house as a location to make a terrible remake of a classic film, Sabrina.
Oh, that's right.
It originally starred Humphrey Bogart,
Right.
and Audrey Hepburn or something like that. I think
They redo it with like
they did rid it with Harrison Ford.
And what's her name?
Yeah, it was like a box office bomb.
Oof, yeah, really.
Yeah, this barn was again had a failing foundation, so again we jacked it up in the air and poured a new foundation under it, and we refurbished the inside.
Proceeded to build a state-of-the-art milking and cheese-making facility. It was quite a large barn, and we added on another 40 feet on the end of it, but the original building to the left was a really substantial timber frame building. It weighed probably like 60 tons. It was a good sized building that we lifted and put a new foundation and lowered it back down, and then developed the infrastructure behind us for is now a commercial dairy that sells products both on island and off.
Right.
Yeah, they've maybe 60 head here.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it's
But just such a wonderful
it's
name.
changed somewhat though. The culture has changed now. That kind of more of the Hollywood influence,
Right.
hedge fund billionaires.
Right.
They bring an element here that is completely alien to the island.
Yeah,
They come
tradition-
here to be seen and to
Right.
to exhibit themselves and
It makes
all
it like
their
a little playground.
yeah. So that brings a whole other element to the island, and that's the major change I've seen in 45
Yeah.
years here. Is
Even in my lifetime, I've seen that too. Growing up, there were certainly a lot of wealthy people and rich, wealthy, important people that would summer here and everything. And obviously, the people who you find to be your clients, they're pretty well-to-do people.
Oh, yeah.
And we were always just kind of around that, but the culture around it definitely changed.
oh right
yes.
here. Yeah,
Probably.
this is the original John Early shop.
Once upon a time.
Yeah, once upon a time this was our shop, predominantly
This building here.
in this building. Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
get a look at this here.
A portion of the shop was through that sliding barn door.
Wow.
We had an old 55-gallon drum laid on its side and a hole cut in it, and we burned scrap wood in there to keep warm. And our office is in the front part of the building.
Wow.
Our woodworking shop in the back, and this is where when John Early and I first started the business, this was our shop. We used to do a lot of woodworking here. But this was, before your time. But now it is the home of Chilmark Chocolates, which is kind of a world-famous, internationally famous chocolatier. People line up here down the street in the summertime, to get their chocolate, and it's mostly produced by handicapped,
Right. Special needs people.
special needs people, are exclusively employed here, and so
It's a wonderful thing they do.
Yeah, it's a wonderful
them.
thing. Yeah.
We're coming up now on your current project. This is at Squibnocket in Chilmark. It's a renovation, right?
Yeah,
It's an
another rescue, building rescue, my John Early company. It overlooks Squibnocket Beach, way up on a hill here.
From this point out is Squibnocket Farm, which is formerly the Hornblower property, deeded to the Cape Cod Company, particularly to the Hornblower family by King George III. It was a very populated Native American settlement, which King George just took ownership of. All right, well, this house, this section of the house is a cod fishing camp that was built in 1830 on Bowman's Island, which is an island offshore here, about 3 miles offshore.
No Man's Land was a military practice range for years, right?
Yeah.
Then it became a bird sanctuary.
Well, they coexisted as both.
Right.
Uh,
For the longest time.
Yeah,
It
I
was
guess
both.
birds were probably a little shell-shocked. So this part of the building, from here forward, was over on Noman's. It was put on a barge and brought over here, dragged up by teams of oxen in 1855 and placed on a granite foundation. There's still some of the old timbers here that we've preserved.
Right.
We have since added on to it and connected the structure in the back, which was an artist studio, was that of a fairly well-known abstract expressionist painter. And the building in the back was his studio. Václav Vidic was his name. He was
Is he a
Hungarian.
Czech or Hungarian? Oh.
Hungarian, yeah. Was a contemporary of Picasso and actually a colleague and friend. And, you know, his stuff hangs in the MoMA and, you know, museums around the world. When we first pulled in there, the floor was covered with paint splatters and everything. And
Right.
yeah, probably could have ripped up sections of floor and sold it to museums. Because some of his paintings were very similar.
Yeah.
But all these timbers were reclaimed, were part of the flooring system. We had to put a new floor. The floor was totally rotted. It was pretty much sitting in the dirt. And so this is a project I'm working on now.
How many guys you got on the crew
I
here?
got 3 guys working with me here. We got the living room. This is going to be the kitchen. Master bedroom. It's quite a nice view of Squibnocket Point out there.
Right.
You know, and a little bit of the pond.
Yeah, that's nice. Wow.
The boy calls to me from history, yeah. Now I am my father's son, but I wonder how much I have his kindness, I have his touch, and an overflowing heart, and a selfish thought, kicked up dust in my lungs from the careless run.
Now we're going to go visit a place that was being built when you were born.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was our first really big job. Kind of put John Early on the map. Quite an architectural statement at the time. It's
Yeah.
a kind of postmodern design. About 8,000 square feet, which was considered a giant house at that time. The 7,000 square foot main house, detached underground guest house, large pool, garage. I think there's like 900 yards of concrete.
Wow.
This job, yeah, it was the biggest concrete pour on the island since maybe ever.
Wow.
Yeah. Nemsha Pond,
Yeah.
which connects to Squibnocket Pond, which is over here.
And this is the house.
And this is the house. It's
half
one
underground.
story, very contemporary.
Yeah. Very distinctive.
9 miles of cedar siding on this building.
People still talk about this place.
Yeah. Yeah. It does have an appearance of being a motel with multiple doors, but actually it's a gallery of for displaying an antique map collection.
Right. We spent a lot of time in this pool when we were kids. Down there's Squitza and Squibnocket out there. This view here is just stunning. That's the roof of the house, and the deck here is up on top. It's half the house is underground.
Yes, this is definitely one of my favorites. Out there is Noman's. We were building this house. They were actively bombing that.
Right.
They used to put on quite a show.
Yeah, and you could hear it
You know, the
reverberate.
F-16s and the F-1s.
Yeah.
They come in low strafing runs, hit the afterburners, air to surface missiles.
Yep.
here's an outdoor shower that I designed and built.
The mushroom head.
Yeah, yeah. There's a canvas tarp
Right. Yeah.
cover over it.
Yes.
All the trim here is teak, all the siding is cedar.
You can see the guest house down here it's underground.
Yeah, dug under the hill there. Sod roof.
And that creates a lot of problems. I remember one time there was a leak. Somebody, I guess, had driven a tent spike.
Yeah, they had held an event and the tent company came and drove
A spike into the
spikes
grass.
for the stays, and not realizing that it was only 6 inches of dirt on
Right.
top of a rubber roof.
Yeah, and it pierced the rubber underlayment, and there was this mysterious leak that we, couldn't figure
Discovered
out.
till years later.
Right.
This house is 187 feet long, and all these beams you see sticking out were big glue lamps that were cantilevered out, and then we had to cut the ends of them in a perfectly straight line. So it involved setting up a little shelter up on the hill over there, setting up a transit, then looking down, marking each beam as we went along with a bucket truck, and with a big 10, 12-inch saw, cut the ends of the beams off, perfectly aligned.
It looks damn good.
Yeah.
The old Gayhead Lighthouse.
Yeah.
This is a very significant project.
Biggest moving project. Well, maybe not biggest, but most challenging.
Gayhead Lighthouse, in this iteration, goes back to
1852 it was.
1852. It's the brick structure. It was atop the Gayhead Cliffs. The cliffs obviously are eroding at a pretty alarming rate in certain places.
Move it or lose it.
Yeah, move it or lose it. I mean, you had a couple options. One was to disassemble the lighthouse and reassemble it somewhere else, which wouldn't work.
That wasn't gonna happen.
It was not going to happen. The other option was, I feel like there was another option.
Take it in sections, move it in
Sections.
sections, and relocate it.
Right. Or just jack it up.
Pick up
get
the
it on
whole
rails.
building and move it in one shot.
Exactly. So
That's what
you
we
ended up
opted
doing.
for. We hired a company that has moved 6 other lighthouses.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing. 2 years ago, it was moved back 135 feet from the edge of the cliff to its new location.
Yeah. I assume where that little
That ring
stone
of
plinth
stone
is.
is
Yeah.
exactly where the former location was.
Yeah, that's a nice little memorial.
So we were only 40 feet from the edge over there.
Right.
We're a good 180 feet back now.
And this area here is an area of very low or no geological erosion. So it's
Very stable.
very stable.
Clay formation. Yeah.
Right. So for the next 100 years or so, you should be safe.
Take a quick look up at the cliff. You can see what's at work here.
Careful. All the air you're seeing beyond the fence here, that all used to be land. This is where the lighthouse once stood. You can see how close it is to the edge. I mean, yeah, you got less than 40 feet now.
There's the original center stone.
Yeah.
The lighthouse. There's a steel column that supports the spiral stairs and the upper decks. And that's that right there.
Wow.
So still an active aid to navigation.
Right.
Still considered a very important lighthouse.
Well, yeah, the waters out here are dangerous with Devil's Bridge.
Rocks left from the eroded cliff go out about a half a mile that are barely below the surface of the water. During the heyday of shipping in the 1800s, tens of thousands of ships passed through here every year on their way between New York and Boston. It took a whole town to move this
It
lighthouse.
certainly did. And it really was a classic Gayhead affair. Pick up your heels and just get it done.
And with a lot of help, I mean, we had to
Lot of
raise $3 million to do it.
Yeah.
So, in a matter of just 3 short years, we got ownership and moved to Lighthouse.
To complete our tour,
We're in the little truck now. We're going to take a little
Yep.
trip into Squibnocket Farm here.
this is a new causeway bridge that's going to connect the mainland with these properties up here, replacing the stone causeway that's down there by the ocean.
That's been a real point of contention.
Yeah, there's been a lot of controversy over it, but frankly, I think it's much better for everybody. I've been working out here probably about 30 years. In the course of the 30 years I've been here, at least 5 different occasions, this stone causeway has been breached. Most recent was during Hurricane Sandy. I came out in the morning, it was low tide, went out to check on the job we're going to go look at now. And 3-4 hours later, on my way back out, the tide had risen and the storm had strengthened. And when I got to the gates on the other side, the waves were breaking over the causeway and tossing basketball-sized rocks up onto the road. So I had to time my departure,
Right.
waiting between waves, and then gun it. Made it across the causeway without getting washed away.
Man is an island unto himself. Man is an island unto himself. I'm building a boat. I'm building a boat.
House we worked on years ago. Just get a better view of it up here. This is a bowed roof. I would say mid to early 1800s. It is now owned by Bill Murray.
Bill Murray's house.
Yeah, he came here with a wave of all the original Saturday Night Live people.
Right.
Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Bill Murray, Jane Curtin. They all had houses up here. Dan and Bill are the only two that still have houses. But yeah, back in the days, we used to party together.
No.
This is one of the most recent houses that we built, completed about 2 years ago. One I'm very proud of.
Yeah, this is a nice one.
I came on this site, probably 3 or 4 years ago. It was just an open meadow. Encompasses quite a few acres of land that will always remain wild. This house was designed with the intent of making it blend into the landscape, the natural terrain, and it's built into the side of a hill here. So it doesn't, even though it is a large house, it doesn't create a large profile. And according to the architect, the story behind this is that it was a 18th century farmstead. All this granite comes from New England. A lot of it is native, but a lot of it was brought down from Maine. Our stonemason has his own quarry up in Maine, and he and his guys constructed this completely stone building. All the interiors are reclaimed beams from barns up in Nova Scotia, the Canadian Maritimes, that were reconstructed here to create the illusion that they were built in the late 1700s, early 1800s. There's a more modern element here. It's a breezeway connector that connects the 2 wings. We have a very creative stonemason. This outdoor shower is his creation. Very organic. He does some incredible work. Just an incredible spot out here. Not many people get to see this part of the island.
Building a boat, calling it home, calling it home. Hey, 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 hey. Man is in
it you said when we were loading up the back of Big Red? In the back of coffee shops and hippies wearing sarongs, loading up and loading out after the last song. I know the songs will never end. Big Red, what was it you said when we were loading